evening after we had a health fair here. But this is the gospel text from the 17th chapter of St. Luke. We hear in this that Jesus' mission included making the unclean clean again. But unexpectedly, a cleansed Samaritan leper became a model for those who would praise and worship God and give thanks for God's mercy. So on the way to Jerusalem, Jesus was going through the region between Samaria and Galilee. As he entered the village, the 10 lepers approached him. Keeping their distance, they called out, saying, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." When he saw them, he said to them, "Go and show yourself to the priests." And as they went, they were made clean. Then one of them, when he saw that he was healed, turned back, praised God with a loud voice. He prostrated himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him. And he was a Samaritan. Then Jesus asked, "Were not 10 made clean? But the other 9, where are they? Was none of them found to return and give praise to God except this foreigner?" Then he said to him, "Get up and go on your way. Your faith has made you well." This is the gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
Praise to you, O Christ. Our first lesson that we heard also in the first service was also a story of healing. Also a story that included a leper. A leper is someone who has a disease that is, let's find the words, I have it written here. It is a bacterial infection called Mycobacterium leprae, also known as Hansen's disease. Now I bring that up because I always found it interesting and was always teased about it because my maiden name was Hansen, spelled the same way. So anytime this lesson came forward, people would always poke fun at my brother and I. So we sort of dealt with that, and I kind of had an interest in finding out, well, just what is this Hansen's disease, this leprosy? Leprosy is an irreversible degeneration of skin tissue, and so it looks really gross. And you know, there were other diseases that had similar effects but weren't quite as detrimental. Taken to the nth degree, leprosy would swell limbs and just make life horrible. And those who were pronounced with leprosy were thrown out of town, were not invited to be with family or friends. They had to wear torn clothing and were shunned. They were put outside the city walls, and they had to yell when anybody was approaching them, "Unclean, unclean, don't come near us, stay away," because it was very infectious. Now I deepen our understanding of leprosy a little bit because chronic illness or chronic pain, something that many of us know, whether it be individually or you know someone that has something that sets them apart, whether it be in pain, whether it be something that they live with. Now, as someone with a chronic illness, and healthy, I find all kinds of miraculous things in tools and medicines that help my life become manageable and doable and just wonderful. But I also know that living with something like that can be wearying, and it can be sad, can be scary. And Ken, if I might share, you just said to me that sometimes you just think you just want to go home to God because you've had enough. And I know that too. And then there's the anger of why me and what's this all about? What am I supposed to learn from this? And it is not one that is like the story of the leper returning with thanks or thanksgiving for even the minuscule joys that do surround in this life. Comparatively, it feels sometimes. So we hear today this Gospel of Luke, and we hear Jesus when he was approached by the lepers to give them some healing. They called out, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." And they approached him with this plea for healing, but probably also kept their distance, both emotionally and physically. Physically because it was law, but emotionally because they had probably been trained by bitter experience not to cross the line of hopeful expectation that their lives would somehow be made different. I know I have felt that way. Can't possibly be better. Can't possibly be worse. In response, Jesus instructed those lepers to go show themselves to the local priests to be reclassified as clean. But here's the interesting part. He did that without actually healing them right there. They were required to step into the reality of their own healing, even before it occurred, even without evidence that it could or would. Perhaps to some of them, as well as maybe us, they thought they were being mocked or dismissed. Even so, all of them were made clean as they went. Jesus seemed to cross over this sense of border that they had put up, that they had been chosen to live on the other side of. And Jesus stood with them and made them well. But he also provided them and us a multitude of promises, including, also a set of challenges and opportunities. And that's what I'd like to focus on today, 2 sets of challenges and opportunities. The first set of challenge and opportunity is, the first challenge is the sense of trusting him. And then the opportunity to act on that trust. He empowered those lepers to move into their reality. And unseen or untested, they had to trust that reality of wholeness and healing. Now, this demonstrates in a book and in a title, it's one of my favorite books, by this author, Brendan Manning. The title of the book is called Ruthless Trust. Now, that's interesting to me, and here's how he defines it. He says, to trust in the love of God in the face of marvels, in the face of cruel circumstances, obscenities, and the commonplaces of life, is to whisper a doxology in the darkness. Doxology is a prayer of thanksgiving. It's to whisper a doxology in the darkness. Now, sometimes the dark is all we can see. And a whisper is all we have to give. Sometimes not even a whisper, sometimes a whimper. And when we find ourselves in the midst of pain or sickness or danger or grief, Jesus doesn't ask us to whitewash it or deny it or analyze who is responsible for it or even try to have it go away. He asks us to trust him, to lean on him, to put our faith in him, large or mustard seed size. And it is enough. The trick is not to lie to ourselves about what we are thinking or feeling or try and repress it, but to simply make a choice to live into a new and different reality. Sometimes it can mean acting without really even believing. Sometimes it can mean acting as if we trusted in God without that belief of knowing the ground below us. Sometimes that acting as if we trusted God, even when we're not even sure there is a God. This was what our lesson is really about, is trusting in God and living it out. And there is a real power in that trust. That kind of trust is the faith that moves mountains. It is the deepest kind of faith there is. And because of the choices we make in our lives with our actions, they express our inner convictions far more authentically than any mental construct or feeling or creed ever could. This is a faith that calls us only to ask that we step into our own healing by continuing to move into the direction of love and life. Even or especially when all hope seems lost. This is the kind of faith that is not, again, made up of ideas or feelings or thoughts or particular outcomes, but on the choices that we make every single moment of our lives. This faith is the very gift that we stand in the presence of Christ and in the grace of God. This trust is an attitude or an action or a choice that we, like those lepers, can choose in our daily lives. And the second set of challenge and opportunity illustrated, I think, here is the challenge of gratitude and the choice of thanks living. You see, when one of those, the Samaritan, was healed, he noticed his new condition and he turned back to express his gratitude. Now, the other ones weren't wrong. They did what they were told to do. They went out and they lived into their own reality. But one was so moved that he came back and expressed his gratitude, giving Jesus that posture of worship, reflecting how much it meant to him, a posture of love. Gratitude is not only a response to good fortune, but also, like trust, is a choice I think we can make. Certainly that's true of the leper in today's gospel. What we do know is while the 10 may have all been thankful, only the one came back and decided to actually give voice to those emotions, to express his gratitude to Jesus and to God. And gratitude is indeed a response to our blessings of life. But it is also a choice to see those blessings, to name them, and express our gratitude in word and deed. Gratitude draws us out of ourselves into something larger and bigger and grander than we could even imagine, and joins us at the font of blessing itself. But maybe, just maybe, gratitude is also the most powerful emotion there is, as it frees us from fear and releases us from anxiety and emboldens us to do more and dare more than we could ever imagine. And giving voice to gratitude is an opportunity with consequences. For as we express our gratitude, we affect or infect those around us and even shape the reality in which we all live. So today I invite you to think about it. That gratitude is not only an emotion to choose and express in the response of our given day. And to trust is not only to think about and believe, but it's an opportunity to lean into Jesus and let him hold us in his arms and walk with us. It is the opportunity to express and show others what difference our lives have been made in our lives by this relationship with God and with each other. My Aunt Angelou once said, "Let gratitude be the pillow upon which you kneel to say your nightly prayer, and let faith be the bridge you build to overcome evil and welcome good." And that's what I invite all of you to consider today, this week, this month, as we move into Thanksgiving. Let us make choices that are based on our trust in God and our gratitude to Him. That we might feel a range of emotions in all the circumstances we face in life, in all the situations we're presented with, but we choose which to give expression. We choose which to step forth on the stage of life with and give character and fullness. And hopefully we are living examples embodying gratitude and trust. I have a friend who lives with Parkinson's disease. He's a gentle giant of a man who I've watched be shaped and shriveled as Parkinson's has taken hold of him. I, at many times, had felt sorry for him, and one day I asked him, how does he live so faithfully with his Parkinson's disease? And he said to me, Dawn, I am thankful every day for this disease that God has given me. I am thankful to my God for Parkinson's disease. Yes, even that, because I trust God in all things. It has taken practice that I can say that I am grateful. Words were not quite exactly that poetic, perhaps, but in a sense, that is what he said to me, and it always lives here in my heart because I've always thought that that is a tall order, something beyond my reach, and only available to such spiritual giants as Paul and maybe Ken here, and others that I know. But I think all of us can take part in it by practicing this response of trust and gratitude. Like all other options, they become easier as we practice them. So I invite you and urge you, like I've had on and off for the last few weeks, to take part in creating a list or offering thanks. We have an opportunity back here on our thanks table. You have other opportunities, and I encourage you to consider keeping a gratitude journal in which you write things that you are amazed at and wonder about and thankful for that God does in your lives or that happens in your life. And maybe even take it to social media and put at least 3 things a day that you might be grateful or thankful for. And I will bet you, before this year is out, that you will see your life transformed as you step into that new reality. And you know that God is real and that Jesus is working in your life. These attitudes of gratitude and trust are critical for our faithful discipleship. And so I invite you and encourage you and cajole you, won't you practice them today? Gratitude and faith are not commands, but they are pure invitation from a God who loves us and never gets tired of inviting. Amen.